First time home buyers have to be ready in this market to fight for properties.
Welcome, everyone, to the Closing Table Podcast, real accounts from real estate professionals, brought to you by Windowstill. I'm your host, Kat Schooler, and today I'm sitting down with real estate agent Kate Korenblit with Keller Williams North Shore West out in Libertyville, Illinois. And today Kate shares with us how she got started in real estate, the advice she has for both first-time home buyers and sellers, and how Kate is using her social media to drum up leads. So without further ado, let's chat with Kate. Kate, thank you so much for joining me today. I would love to start our conversation off with how you got started in real estate.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm super excited for our conversation today. I hope my experience will help new agent, seasoned agent, who wants to, learn something new, maybe, hopefully. Yeah, thank you.
Of course. So how did you get started?
I've been interested in real estate for a while. I would say 7+ years. I have a dental background. My first profession is dental hygienist. And I always felt like I needed something more and something on my own. Um, but we all have those people in our lives that discourage you a little bit. So when I would say, "Oh, I want to do real estate. I love it," and few friends are like, "Oh, yeah, it's not. I don't think it's for you. Just do your 9 to 5 job, and you'll be fine." And I'm like, "Yeah, maybe it's not for me." But fast forward, I had my second baby, and 2 weeks later, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm on maternity leave, so might as well. So I guess hormones kicked in. I don't know. In about 6 months, I got my license, and the rest is history.
I'm glad that you persevered, because I think it's really frustrating to hear that somebody discouraged you, but I like to think of myself as kind of a rebel as well. And I love that you kind of just decided to take it on as this, rebellious challenge to jump into real estate anyway.
I am definitely happy that I did, and I did it post-COVID. And I guess it was the right time because I got to learn basics. It wasn't that crazy over time where, everything flew out of in the market, and um, it was super easy. So I got to really learn the basics and, work for my clients, I guess.
So when you're working with your clients, like what does that first meeting look like when you are meeting a buyer or a seller for the first time?
So I do send a buyer or seller my presentation um, in advance. For the seller, I also send them the home improvement list. So they have it ready. And when I go for the listing presentation, we can go over it. And they already familiar with what I offer, what marketing looks like for the seller, let's say, and they have their questions ready for me. So it just saves a little bit of a time, I guess. Same for the buyer. They get familiar with the buying process. And also, my husband is a loan officer, so we work together. And one of the things that I offer is a consultation with him as well at the same time for the buyer. So it does save a lot of time. And we really get, to understand the numbers and what and where and how we can look for them, for the properties. So that helps a lot.
Right. And then kind of you have more knowledge maybe about what's going on with just to how loans work in general, not people's specific stuff,
Exactly.
right? Obviously that's
Exactly.
private, but you have kind of this knowledge of how this process is going to look like for
Yes.
your clients, maybe a little more so than someone else.
Yes, totally. And, I make sure everything gets done in a timely manner. 'Cause, he's right there and he gets to work right away.
So What advice would you give to a first-time home buyer?
First-time home buyers have to be ready in this market to fight for properties. And I make sure they're not scared to give 5, 10,000 over ask, because that's the case right now. If it's a hot property, good neighborhood, good schools, that's what's going to happen. 5, 10, 15, 20 offers, right? That's when my husband comes handy too, because, really 10,000 over is only $60 a month in payments, and people don't realize that. And it's not as scary as it sounds. You just have to explain and, get all the strategies, explain to the buyer. But yeah, first time home buyer programs are super important. You can, and the buyers don't realize you don't have to put 20% down as well. It can be as little as 3% or 5%. And again, people don't know that. So getting in touch with the right loan officer and the agent is super, super important.
Yeah, that's so important to recognize. And I love that you broke it down like that. Um, maybe my husband will listen to this now. But no, I can just go home and tell him. But yes, $10,000 sounds like a big number, but $60 a month is maybe one less night out,
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. And it's no big deal. It's nothing to be scared of. It's just 10,000 is such a big number, but in reality, it's doable, and it's going to help you
certainly.
win your dream house. So,
What would you give advice to sellers? Like if they're selling their house for the first time in this market, like what advice would you have for them? I think a lot of sellers still feel like, you know, that maybe they're in the position of power. So how's it looking for your sellers?
first and foremost, do not overprice. That's rule number one. Even in this extreme sellers market that we're having right now, so important. I see properties in hot neighborhoods sit for 3, 4 months, overpriced, and it's not doing anyone any good. Also, few things that I offer to my sellers. So those are complimentary services that I offer. Is pre-inspection if the house is older, and they don't know what's going on there. Pre-inspection might be a good idea to kind of get ahead of the game and fix what needs to be fixed and get more money. But again, it's totally up to the seller. Some people do it, some people don't. Some people are just, what, we'll deal with it when it comes to it. But it's definitely an option for my clients. And then I also offer a complimentary move out cleaning for my sellers. And honestly, I I don't see any agents do that in my area. So I think that what makes me pretty unique.
I think that's a great idea and
Yeah.
just a huge relief off their shoulders, right? Because they've just probably, they've packed up everything they own. And the last thing you kind of want to do is now,
Clean
you've
up.
tired everything's in boxes
Yep.
is clean up. Exactly.
Yep. So people love it. I'm telling you, it's been a big one for me.
That's so cool. I think that's a wonderful idea. So I'm curious, you've mentioned a couple of times you have like your checklist for your sellers of like possible improvements and you kind of go over those with them. What are the main areas that you think people should focus on if they are planning to improve their house to sell?
Well, it's major stuff: roof, windows, furnace, AC, um, floors, maybe. But those items tend to be the most expensive. So, but again, it's a matter of, do people have money to fix it, or it's just going to be reflected at the price point. Um, so yeah, it depends, but definitely roof, windows, furnace, AC, the big stuff.
Kate, can you think of like a particularly rewarding or challenging transaction? And like, would you share that story with us? And like maybe something you learned, or like maybe it really is close to your heart.
Yes, actually, I just closed on that one a few weeks ago. So I was reached out by a loan officer who does government grants. So he works with low income people. And so my first language is Russian. And like I have Russian clients, they don't speak English much. So I need a Russian speaking realtor. If you're, are you interested? Sure, I've never done it. So they've been renting this house for 15 years. It's a Section 8 client. And then the county sells it to them. So they're buying that same property they lived in for 15 years. And honestly, it's great to work with government grants. They cover so much. Um, they literally needed to bring $5,000 to the closing table. That's all. And it's an older people, they work hard. And we made sure that everything was done, all the inspection items and everything. And we just closed on it a few weeks ago, and it's just been amazing. They were so grateful, and just, yeah, this is my favorite so far.
That's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And, kind of having, that language connection
Right,
and being able to help someone in need.
right. Yeah, yeah. So
Oh,
I would love to work with with those people. They're so grateful, and it's just so rewarding to see, they're owning a property, which, it's awesome.
yeah. There's so much pride in property ownership. And I think rightfully so. It's the American dream, right?
Right. No, for sure. 100%. You're right. Yep. Yep.
Kate, what would you say is one of the biggest lessons you've learned in real estate?
Do not assume ever. So one of my first transaction, um, it was actually a friend of mine, and we were buying a new house for them, and I just assumed that they would sell their old one with me, right? Which was not the case. It was interesting. I had to get over it. And you grow a thick skin in real estate. You eventually learn to do that. But yeah, that was my lesson. Never assume.
Mm, that's a great lesson. I'm sorry it had to be learned the hard way.
Yeah, but I've been pretty lucky so far with my friends and family. I've been working with them a lot, and they send referrals to me nonstop. So, and we all know those sad real estate stories that mom or dad buys or sells a property with somebody else. But yeah, I've been pretty lucky. Like, I have amazing friends and family that I work with.
I mean, the biggest thing they can do for you is refer you, right?
Exactly, exactly. I just closed in a transaction that was my family's referral. Like, amazing, amazing. Yeah.
I'm so glad you have them. I'm curious because we had talked before, we're talking a little bit about referrals, but I'd love to jump into lead gen because you're really focusing on your social media as a form of lead generation. So can we go into, how you're approaching that?
Yeah, so I always knew that I wanted to take a social media route. Right when I started, like cold calling or door knocking is not my thing. Okay. I love social media. I enjoy doing it. I'm like, why not? Why not do something that I like and enjoy? And it didn't happen right away. So it's been about 3, 4 months for me now that I'm really into it and I start seeing results. Actually, somebody DM'd me just yesterday, first time buyer. I'm looking to buy. I'm like, yeah, it's finally working because it takes a while. But I met this amazing, talented girl that helps me with reels and and stories and everything. So we work together. She has awesome ideas. And I don't do just real estate on my social media. So the golden rule is 80/20. 80% personal life and fun, 20% real estate. And I think it's a good mix. It's been working so far. Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. I've never heard anybody proportion it out as
Hmm.
80-20, but I think that's a great split.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, we figured out that reviewing new restaurants is a thing. People love it. And so we're doing a little bit of that too.
Ooh, that's fun, especially if it's something you're already interested in. I think that's a great place
Yeah. Yeah, for
to
sure. And people are like,
for your social media to
what?
live.
Yeah, where's that? When did it open? Like, how to get there? It starts the conversation for sure. And you just go from there.
Yeah, yeah. So I love that you shared that some of your stuff is like restaurant review. I'm curious about maybe like what is your other content? Like how are you mapping it out? Like are you just kind of like taking, little videos of your day and then, you know, turning it into a reel? Like what is your process look like?
So I do something on my own a few times a week. I record stories. If we go out, if I'm somewhere with my kids, I take pictures. I do that. And then we get together with my amazing Instagram girl a few times a week. We come up with a plan and we just film two reels, like once every 2 weeks, probably. We would film 2 or 3 reels. Then she edits it and we post it. I actually have my son post about real estate too. Um, so he would talk about mortgages and the sellers and about selling the house and stuff, and it's been really cute. Yeah.
Yes, I saw a couple of those. It's
You did.
precious.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He's awesome.
Well, and that's
He's
so
like,
fun.
Mom,
And I
what do I
think
get for it? Am I getting paid? I'm like, okay, fine.
it's something that makes you stand out for sure. And because your family is so involved in what you do, I think it's a great way to show that.
Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, for next year, my plan is to grow my team. So I would have another agent that would do commercial real estate only, because it's a great demand in commercial real estate agents. For some reason, like I mean, there's a lot of them, but I guess, not a lot of good ones. So I want someone to do commercials specifically for me. Yeah.
But that's very cool. That's exciting that you're
Mhm.
expanding.
Trying. Yeah.
Yeah. Kate, or what would you say are any habits or routines that you have that help drive your success?
I do get in touch with at least 5 people during the day. At least five is minimum. If it doesn't matter if it's text or a call or DM through Messenger, comment, just asking, how are you doing? Um, and I did get a few transactions out of it. Like the more the better, but it's at least 5 people a day that I talk to one way or the other.
And do you like make sure you do it at the same time every day? Like, how do you stay consistent and like honest with yourself about it?
I try to do it in the morning. If I do it in the morning, I have to do it by 6 p.m. because that's when activities start and I have my kids. So I can't do much in the evening during the weekdays. So it has to be before 6 p.m. that I do it. Preferably in the morning, but that doesn't always happen. Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. It can be so difficult, with outreach and stuff like that because I think it can feel like one of those things that you're like could maybe let slide or like, oh, I'll just do it later and before you know it, the day's almost over.
It's really hard. I think it's the hardest thing to be consistent, but that what brings you success. Same with social media. It's really hard to stay consistent and post all the time. But you get tired of it, honestly. As much as I love it, but if you don't do it, you're not going to succeed, period.
Yeah, I think that's super important. What would you say is the biggest challenge you might be facing in real estate, and how are you working to overcome it?
So I am trying to focus on luxury real estate. It is a very hard to break into it because luxury real estate is a little different, but that's my area. And my biggest challenge, I am comparing myself to other agents a lot, which is a big mistake. So we have a few bigger agents with like 20 plus years of experience, huge teams, and it's really hard to compete with them. I'll be honest with you. And I'm just trying to figure out what I can do, what they don't. Um, and yeah, that's my biggest challenge right now. I just want to make sure that I go to the listing appointment and I get picked over those big, big, big agents, big players.
That seems like it would be tough to break into, but I think you have something so unique that you can bring to the table. And I'm sure it's just a little bit of time right before you're full in.
Right. I'm still fairly new, and for some people, it's a setback. So I'm a little over 2 years in real estate. I'm like, oh, how many properties did you sell? Oh, it's just a little over 2 years. Yeah, so you're new. And that's a challenge too. But at the end of the day, it's about customer service and how to treat your clients. And luckily, my brokerage has been amazing. Like I can call anyone anytime and I get answers to my questions. So that's not an issue, but that's it is what it is. It's just time for sure.
Kate, are there any real estate myths out there that you would like to bust?
See, commissions, it's always negotiable, but people still like some of my clients are you charging 6%? Is it 6%? I'm like, no, it's not. It's all negotiable. Stop watching the news. Um, but people still think that it's all said and done. And I feel like that's the biggest myth in real estate. But right now it's been interesting commission wise. I'm sure you heard about
Yeah.
that.
And I'm sure it depends on the person. And so I think maybe the takeaway is like have an open and honest conversation with your agent, when you're getting things started. And my husband and I are in the process of, house shopping right now. And that was one of the first conversations we had with our agent. And it's out there. And like we talked about it. And, that's all there is to it.
But you are a little more educated than
Yeah.
majority of people, right? Um, so it's a no-brainer to you. But people who are used to the idea that the buyer's agents are free to use, it's a bit challenging. It's a bit challenging, but I try to do everything to negotiate with the seller's agent. And honestly, I haven't had much issues with that. Sellers still pay if they want to sell their house.
For sure. I think, yes, I think the news can be misleading. And so that's why, I've said multiple times on this podcast, if, people have been listening for a while, that you just need to have like an honest conversation with a trusted agent, someone like yourself who actually knows what's going on, not just whatever the headlines feel like telling us today.
No, for sure, for sure. That's so true. Yeah, but honesty is the key. If
Hmm.
if buyer needs to pay, they need to pay. Like there's nobody works for free. So
Certainly. And it kind of goes back to your lesson of assuming, like, you shouldn't
exactly,
assume, even as the buyer and the seller, like, we shouldn't make assumptions.
100%. Yes. One of the things also, just want to say how great I am.
Yeah.
I am taking a staging and interior design course just so I can bring more value to my clients. Like if they don't have to pay for staging, that's awesome if I could do it for them. So that's another thing that I'm gonna offer hopefully soon. Yeah.
That's really cool. It's the little stuff that goes a long way. Okay. Um, like I'll tell you from my personal experience, we haven't looked at a whole lot of houses, but out of the dozen or so we have, only one of them smelled nice. And it makes a huge difference, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you a little story. So I did few events, like pretty big ones in the past few years. And for my last one, I did a custom made diffuser with my logo on it. And I did my own essential oil blend. Um, and I had an open house shortly afterwards. And I put it in a diffuser, and people were like, oh my God, it smells so nice. Like people do pay attention. Well, some asked if I'm covering a smell of some sort or if something's wrong. I'm like, no, that's what I do. There's nothing wrong.
No, I mean, I would much rather, smell a like $5 Glade plug-in than nothing. I think it's psychological, right? If it just smells like cinnamon and apples, that's so much more inviting than nothing, or even worse, like that,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
negative.
for sure. So I was trying to do something more relaxing. Um, and I actually do give it to my clients as a present. So those little diffusers and the essential oils. So yeah, people, it's been a hit.
That's so fun because it's custom to you, and then it's kind of like they'll always have that memory, and scent memory is so strong.
Right, right. And it's also one form of the branding too.
Hmm.
I am big on my logo. I had it everywhere. Like I have it on my laptop, like everywhere. My social media too. Um, and if people recognize your logo, it's a big thing. Like branding is so, so important everywhere, like in any business. So I'm really trying to brand myself heavily. Yeah.
Well, Kate, I know we are almost at the end of 2024. I'm curious if you set goals for this year, and if so, how they're going.
So one of the things that we have at our brokerage at the end of each year, it's called Business Clinic. So it's an all-day event, and then you work on your business plan and your goals. It's been a great help. You visually see the numbers. It's been amazing. But my goal is at least one or two listings a month. And right now I prefer to focus on the sellers. Because you can get both worlds, a buyer and a seller, which, I just had my first double-ended transaction recently. It's been interesting, definitely, but I think it's the way to go now, and it's just going to be so much more common.
Very cool. And then, Kate, do you have anything you're looking forward to for the rest of the year? It doesn't have to be real estate related.
Vacation that I booked in
Yeah, where are you
December,
going?
Dominican. Um,
Ooh,
just, kids and a few friends. It's going to be nice. I just
that'll be
need a little
perfect.
break.
Right, to get away from the winter, the cold weather.
Right. Yes. Yes.
Well, I hope you have a great time. Kate, thank you so much for joining me today. Would you like to direct people how they can follow you on social, how they can find you and work with you?
Yes. Yes. So my Instagram is Kate K Real Estate. Um, Kate Korenblit on Instagram as well. I don't know if people really use Facebook these days. I do a little bit, but not much. It's mostly Instagram. But it shouldn't be a problem just by using my first last name.
Awesome. And we'll link it in the show notes so people can find you
Perfect.
super
Thank you
easy.
so much.
Oh, well, thank you, Kate. It was so wonderful getting to know you.
Oh, you as well. You as well. You're amazing.
Thank you for listening to the Closing Table podcast brought to you by Window Still. I'm Kat Schooler. Please be sure you're following our podcast on Apple or Spotify. And if you're part of our YouTube audience, make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you're enjoying our podcast, please consider leaving us a comment or review. It helps us find more amazing listeners like you. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.